Hey everyone, it's Amanda from the Fundamental Home, and today I am filming the answer to assignment 2 from the virtual homeschool co-op, and that is how do you deal with negative comments about homeschooling. And just a quick word, because if you've been following my channel, you know that I'm still recovering from having my gallbladder removed, and I'm doing pretty well today. Been up and around a little bit. I actually cooked a little bit this morning, so that was nice. Got another shower. These are little minor accomplishments, but if you've had surgery, you know it's a big deal in the moment. So anyway, I'm doing really well. I'm feeling kind of more normal today, and enjoying time out on my porch. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning. So just wanted to say a word about that in case everyone was wondering. But back to the actual virtual homeschool assignment. How do I deal with negative comments about my homeschool or homeschooling in general? I have done many videos on dealing with negative comments. I'm going to link one of them up here for you to check out, because I think the way that I deal with negative comments on any topic is pretty much the same. I really try to deal with negativity in general with a measure of grace. A lot of times people have questions or comments or concerns, and they come from a place of either just hatefulness or ignorance, and every single comment doesn't have to be answered. You know, if you have watched my channel, you know that sometimes I will just hit the delete button. I don't have time or energy to deal with every bit of negativity that comes my way. No interest in it. There's my kitties coming over. They agree. Who has time for that? Nobody. If somebody has a genuine question that they just don't know how to word it appropriately and it's coming across as negative, but they're really genuinely concerned or have a question, I do try to answer that though. I do try to answer their concern, because I think that there's a lot of ignorance out there in terms of the homeschooling community, a lot of negative assumptions that just aren't true, and I like to let people know if there's something that I know that's not true. I want to make people aware of the truth, because I think it's helpful and I want to encourage them. So I do answer sometimes, and like I said, I do try to be gracious. It doesn't always come across as gracious as I want it to be, and sometimes you really have to be direct, and not unkind, but direct. And it's so funny that this question came up, and I actually got a comment today, and it was about my boys being homeschooled. I think I'm going to take you in and show you the actual comment and show you my response, and then I'm going to talk to you about why I responded that way, because I think it might help you to understand how I deal with negative comments. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about comments that I've had in the past. So let me just show you one that I actually received today on one of my videos. Okay, so I made this video about my children's rooms. I was like a room tour, sort of, and I talked about the books that were in Brian, my oldest son's room. And here is the comment that I got. It says, "I'm not trying to be mean, but I know tons of homeschool boys who grew up just like your son. He'll be a geek." I kind of have the cursor on that, so let me move that so you can see it. He'll be a geek. "No one wants to marry a quiet wimp. There's too many books. Enroll him in a boxing class, a parenting and communication life skills class, so he can learn what's really important that's not in books. Relationship one-on-one skills. Please, I speak from experience. Think about raising a family man, not an obedient mama's boy." And my response was this. Let me just hit the read more here. This is on my vlog channel, in case you were wondering where this is. And I hope you won't take this the wrong way, but I think you have a very narrow definition of manhood. Just because a man is quiet doesn't mean he's a wimp. Christ is a good example. It takes a strong man and a wise one to hold his tongue. As to books, the Bible also talks about the importance of study in 2 Timothy 2:15. There's no shortage of young ladies who are interested in my boys. Not that that is the most important thing. It only takes one, the right one. And I think it's also a bit presumptive to assume that my boys, or any homeschool boys, cannot be strong family men simply because they are intelligent, obedient sons. Both of my boys work in positions of leadership at very young ages, and this is because of their highly developed ability to communicate and lead. It is the foolish young lady indeed who would reject an intelligent, hard-working, obedient, homeschooled young man simply because she thinks he may be geeky. And for the record, my boys have studied martial arts and firearms, and they're perfectly able to defend themselves and their families if necessary. Whatever your experience, I think it's safe to say that it doesn't apply to all homeschooled young men, and you should perhaps learn more about particular young men before you assume that it does. Okay, so that was one negative comment that I got on YouTube. And I don't get them too terribly often, but I do get them from time to time, and you can see that I responded. And I tried to respond in a way that was articulate and direct, but I also tried to be gracious. And I wanted to make the person aware that they have a very narrow definition of what's acceptable. And just because what they see isn't necessarily in their perspective of what is a man or what is a homeschooled boy or all of those things doesn't necessarily mean that they have a complete understanding. And the reason why I even responded to that was because they said, "Please, I speak from experience." And I felt just in that statement that they really were trying to say something that they believed was helpful. And so because of that, I responded, and I felt like I needed to help them understand where I was coming from, if that makes sense. So that's why I gave that response, and I really tried to make sure, and I do always try to make sure I bring it back to the Bible, because that's the foundation for everything that we do, and we do try to respond that way. Now, again, I don't respond to every negative comment. Some of them are just meant to be hateful, and those get deleted. But it was the please, and I speak from experience, that made me feel compelled to respond. And I did try to speak kindly, so I hope that it was taken that way. But you never know. It's so hard to tell when you write to communicate tone. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's stuff that I get on YouTube. In real life, not on the internet. I do get criticism from time to time. I do get some negative opinions. I've gotten a lot of people who, I really haven't gotten a lot of criticism on my boys, believe it or not, in real life. In real life, I think when people meet my boys, a lot of times they're impressed one way or the other. Brian, usually people are impressed with his intelligence, and Ricky, they're usually impressed with his charm, because of course, you know, the big homeschool thing is social skills. And with Brian, people I think do probably question his social ability, but I don't think, frankly, that has anything to do with him being homeschooled. I think Brian would have been the exact same way in public school and private school. In fact, Brian started in public school and private school, and he has not changed. He has been the same since he was 4 years old. So if you know him, you know that's the truth. And I don't think any school system would have made any difference. It's really entirely his personality. And I think the same is true of Ricky. I think that Ricky is Mr. Social, and that would have been the same no matter what kind of educational option we chose. And so when people meet them, they're usually struck with one or the other. With Brian, they're struck with the fact that he's homeschooled and he's so intelligent. With Ricky, they're struck with the fact that he's homeschooled and so articulate and friendly and charming and everything that they think homeschoolers aren't. So it actually comes to Brianna. I get a lot of comments on Brianna, and she is very friendly as well, but sometimes she can be quiet, believe it or not. I know on the videos she's comes across as fun and engaging, but if you meet her in person, sometimes she's very quiet. And sometimes I get comments on her, and I think there's just this attitude for some reason of oppressing women in homeschool. I don't know what the deal with that is, but it's like, oh, she wears skirts and she's at home and you're not giving her enough opportunities and all of this stuff. And I think that over the years I have learned, at first I really felt the need to defend every single thing that came my way. And now I really don't feel the need to defend it as much anymore. I feel like, and I felt from the beginning, but now I've had enough time in it that I kind of seen it come to fruition, that time tells. You know, people might question what you're doing right at the moment, but in time, if you are faithful and do the things that you need to do, it will show what you're doing or what you're not doing. You know what I mean? It's like that story of the young boy who wanted to go fishing and he had to sow the seed in the field, so he just dumped the seed at the end of the field and went fishing. Well, in enough time, you could tell that that whole field hadn't been seeded because nothing popped up out of it, right? Just that one corner had a lot of seed that popped up and didn't become anything because it was too tightly done. Well, it's kind of the same with homeschool. In time, it'll show if you're not putting any seed in that field. You know, you're going to reap what you sow, whether you sow little or sow much. And so I think that that's one of those things that as long as you are actually sowing that seed, actually doing something, in time it's going to show. You are going to reap a harvest. And I think that certainly with the boys I've seen it, and now that Brianna's getting older, I can see it in her life too, that you can see the successes and you can see the gaps. But there are successes and gaps in any kind of educational option. And so I think that the real answer to the negative comments is just your children and their successes. And people are going to be quick to point out the flaws in anything that they disagree with. So it doesn't matter really what you do. You know, there's always going to be flaws, and those who are looking for them will find them. And you just have to be willing to stand there and just deal with that and say, you know what, it wasn't perfect, but I feel like it was the best option for our family. And, you know, my child may not do really well in history, but, you know, they're an exceptional artist, and I think that they've gotten really great training at home in that, and that's their interest area. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they'll do in that. And you just have to take that negative and turn it into a positive. You know, you don't always have to jump to the defense. You don't always have to get angry. You don't have to be that militant homeschool mom out there defending all of the homeschool moms' rights. And don't get me wrong, I think that's important. But I think the biggest defense will be the successes. Because it doesn't matter how loud you are, how great an argument you have. In the end, what's going to matter is whether or not you actually did what you said you were going to do. It matters if you actually, I'm trying to think of the expression, put it to the grindstone. I don't know. My brain's not working well. I'm still recovering from surgery, people. But in the end, you know, people are going to see it. They're going to see what's going to happen with your children, and they're going to know whether or not you put in the effort. And if they see successful, accomplished, happy, complete adults, then what's their argument going to be? It doesn't matter if they nitpick all the little things, you know. And I think, and this is just speaking of the past, at first our family was a little hesitant to see us homeschool. I think my husband was hesitant at first. Now he gave me the opportunity to try for a year. He said, see how it goes, and he loved it after the first year. And I think our family, who were a little bit outside of the circle, sorry if the wind is blowing in the camera, but it's a beautiful day. I think our family was a little hesitant at first too, and they had a lot of questions, and some were a little nicer than others. But I don't know that we responded hatefully, because that wouldn't have changed their opinion. You know, that would have just caused a fuss. I think we really felt it was important to let what we do speak for itself. And now that everybody's graduating and in college, we don't get any negative comments from family. In fact, most of the family is really proud of what we've done and what we've accomplished and how much work we've put into our children and what great human beings they are. And I think that's about all you can ask from any educational option. And it's so funny to me in the end that everyone agrees that an individualized education is the ideal. So I think homeschool moms take all those negative comments personally, because they feel like it's a criticism against them personally. You know, it's like, of course, an individualized education is a great idea. The problem is they don't think that I can do it. And they take it so personal, and they really want to jump to defend themselves. But, Mom, you don't have to defend yourself. You're mom. You're their mom. and you're doing the best you can, and you know you're doing the best you can. So just do it. Just do it, and let them see how amazing your children are. Because I know loads of homeschool families. I know homeschool families that are like super educated and homeschool families that are not super educated. And I know homeschool families that have all the money in the world for great materials, and I know ones that struggle and use whatever free thing they can get their hands on. And the fact of the matter is in the end, they all come out pretty much the same as most children who use other educational options in terms of their actual education. In terms of their actual test, and maybe even better, but that's up for debate. But at the very least, equal. So don't feel the need to defend yourself. Time will tell. You know, the old expression was class will out. And I think that in this case, it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out what's happened. You will reap what you've sown. So just keep sowing. Don't worry about the negativity. Pass it by. And just keep sowing your little heart out, and you're gonna reap a great harvest. So I hope I was coherent. As I said a million times, I'm recovering from surgery. I still wanted to answer the question because I really enjoy being part of the virtual homeschool co-op. And I enjoy seeing you guys' answers. And I did want to encourage everybody not to feel like you have to jump to defend everything, but to show you where I did in fact feel the need to say something and how I responded. Anyway, I hope it was helpful. Thanks for coming to the channel. Thanks for checking us out. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll check out my other homeschool videos. I have a bunch of them up here. And yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know. I'd love to talk to you in the comments. I love connecting with homeschool moms because you're my people. You understand me. So anyway, that's it. I'm gonna go rest up. I'm gonna let my daughter edit this video because I'm trying to recover, and hopefully I'm looking forward to seeing what next week's assignment is. So see you guys next time. Have a good day. Bye.